Hi, my name is Soni Dhaliwal, and actually, I wanted to talk to you about a few things. One, I had come across a few years ago against what we would call conspiracy theories. Now, it's actually quite a bit that I learned in the last 6 years, but anyway, living in the United States, I came to understand that five media corporations, including Viacom, including Disney. They basically controlled all of the media networks that we have in the United States. And that's why a lot of the tabloid magazines that we have would wind up saying the same thing, or say Fox News Channel would always present the Republican stance, and that the, say, CNN would always promote the Democrat stance. And as you get deeper and deeper into it, you find out that they're two sides of the same coin, that basically they essentially are tricking people to think that there's one party that's different from another, but they basically do the same thing. Why is that? Because they both are part of the Foreign Council of Human Relations, and they will do whatever their bidding is to be. And so basically, what happens is at the time of election, they'll lie to you, they'll lie to the public, say, Obama said, yes, we can, we're going to get out of the war and this and that. And he's still been into that Iraq war long into the term. Or, when Bush was first elected, or second term, I'm not quite remembering, he there was this ballot deal with the Florida that all of the votes were up for a toss, that there were pregnant Chads, dimple Chads, this and that, these Chads and everything. I think it was a fight between him and Al Gore. So, um, but the funny thing is that people don't realize is that, well, Jeb Bush, is his relative, is a relatively his cousin, when was the governor of Florida. So handshake, wink, wink, nod, nod, wink, wink. That just is all part of it. Um, we really have not taken back our power for quite some time. Um, as I came across one devotee by the name of Ma Nitya. She talked a little bit about these conspiracy theories, and I came across her. And essentially, what she was saying was there's a conspiracy against enlightenment. And, I was kind of looking into things a bit more, and, I come from a family which actually is involved with gurus for quite some time. My grandmother, Mohini Amma, was regarded as a saint in India. She had led a pretty normal life up to the age of 43. She was like from a upper middle class family or well-to-do family. Her husband used to be the record manager for HMV, and they used to meet the celebrities of India, which is basically what they call Bollywood, which is equivalent to Hollywood in the United States. So it's Bollywood in India. So they would rub shoulders with some of the best of the, people, and get to eat out, and lead a very plush life, basically. And here, when in the West we look at India, we think of them, oh, they're poor, they're third world, or this and that. But people don't realize, with the caste system, is that we have a lot of inequality, that most of the people, though, are poor. They are, if you're a middle class person, you can afford, say, servants, you can have taxi cab drivers, and in that sense, you wind up leading kind of a better quality life than you would if you were in a middle class American. Now, if you're like upper middle class, now your lifestyle is pretty much all set. So anyway, so basically, she came from a good family, and but with having it all, she basically was not happy in her own life. And so actually, my aunt, her name is Kusamasi. Masi in India means your maternal aunt, so my Masi, she had come across one saint by the name of Baba Muktanand when my grandmother was about 43. And at that time, my grandmother had a great feeling of emptiness about her. Like she used to say that life isn't just about eating, drinking, and being merry. There has to be something more to life than this. Currently, I'm reading the autobiography of a yogi, and I'm coming across some of the similar sentiments that is echoed in this book. And so, since I've just begun it, I'm not going to get too much into it, but I highly recommend it. Anyhow, so it was almost an overnight change that happened within her. And, people, she was fun to be around with before, and, would party and things like this. And now all of a sudden she wants to kind of lead a monastic kind of life. And, her husband didn't understand this, and basically wanted her to be the fun-loving kind of socialite wife that he used to have. And she didn't want this type of life for herself. She wanted to do kind of lead a more spiritual life. And so anyway, they had to compromise, and she kept staying with the family, much due to the family's expense, because she was a very tough person, and she kind of, I guess, in a way, shoved the spirituality down some people's throats. And when you're growing up, you obviously have to make your own decisions for yourself, and that might not be the most appealing way. But anyway, so I'm not faulting my grandmother at all, but she could be a very tough person to live with, from what I understand. I, on the other hand, I've only seen her when I was 4 and 6, and so when I'm 4 and 6, I'm a cute little fuzzy little girl. So for me, it was a different relationship, but also that I intrinsically, I guess, I was born into this world with a little bit more of a spiritual bent, and she recognized that in me. She would go for something like 12-hour meditations. Now, she did this for about 3 years or so, and she reached enlightenment really quickly. Now, enlightenment, the best way I can explain this to you is that we all have basically bodies when you are living and when you're dead. Now, if you belong to certain religions like Christianity and Islam, or the Abrahamic religions, you live, you die, you go to heaven or hell for eternity. That's it. So where we're coming from is an Eastern perspective, and the Tibetan Book of the Dead, they'd probably talk about this, or Hinduism would talk about this, Buddhists would talk about this, Sikhs would talk about this, and it's kind of a more holistic and deeper concept of looking at things. Because of the concept of reincarnation. So in this worldview, which I personally believe in, is basically that say that you are basically look at the ocean as an analogous to being God. Vast, so it's in all of its vastness, that you are a drop in the ocean of that God. But say you're in a water bottle. Say that you're floating around in the ocean as a water bottle. And that means the water bottle is analogous to your body, right? Your body, when you die, in the Eastern perspectives, you have an astral body. And even Westerners that have had extrasensory perceptions, or people that have had outer body experiences, or that have had life death experiences, they would testify to such things, and Sylvia Browne is one of those people. Um, or if you look into books like Edgar Cayce, he basically has this access to this universal knowledge. Um, so anyway, it's not to say so it's like you are a drop in the ocean of God, uh, and we have a phrase Om Namah Shivaya, meaning God dwells within you as you. And basically, we don't we there's a saying that there's 5% of our brain capacity is what we use on a day-to-day basis. We make a lot of decisions in our life based on what society tells us is right or not. We kind of go through life in a routine. You know, you're a baby, you're looked after your mom and dad. Then you go out into the world and you study. You go to university. You get a job. You get married to somebody, and you have some kids. And then start middle age, and maybe peak of your career, and then you start getting older. Then you're looking out for retirement. Hopefully, you can retire in a nice sunny place if you're a snowbird, or if you're living like somewhere like that all your life. But it's very kind of a certain way that people have to live, and and money and earning a living and everything is very important in this world. And up until now, we essentially have been living a three-dimensional universe. Basically, right now, the heavenly plane, and most of us can't seem to think about it. We're so stuck in our little corner of the world, thinking about other things, planetary bodies in the universe is just too far out there. Just where I live here, whether it's here in Gurgaon, India, whether it's here in Dallas, Texas, whether it's here in Phoenix, Arizona, whether it's my little part in California, whatever happens. And it's like hearing about another country on the news. It's like, whatever. If it's not about my locality, why should I give a shit, But so I'm talking now at a bigger perspective away from Earth that may be a little far out for some people, because we have to think of our own little spectrum of where we live on the Earth. But on a bigger scale is basically, now think about, your maybe 8th grade science, right? That there would be a cell, and right at the center is a nucleus. And now, basically, in the universe, in the big whole, galactic plane in the universe, what's happening now is that the center of the universe is supposedly, I think one of Yoganand's books talks about this, that is where heaven is. That is where some of the highest beings reside, where you would say Jesus Christ would have lived, or Buddha, or Allah, or some of these great human beings that have enlightened people or to a certain spiritual truths. Now, obviously, over time, some of these truths have been skewed by man, but they have acted like, say, messengers of God, if you may, or saints or gurus. Depending on your worldview, this is who they are. But so that this realm, this center of the universe, has a very high vibratory frequency, and it basically is coming like towards Earth. That hasn't happened in like thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of years. So apparently, according to scientists, the Earth is 4.2 billion years old. And so anyway, when you think about a lot of things, it's kind of like, I think Socrates or either Plato had said this, like that the more you know, the less you think you know, and the less you know, the more you think you know. So the ego is a very strange type of thing. It's kind of like if you have a PhD, you think you know it all, but you're an expert, you're a specialist in one direction, but there's so many other things out there that you don't really know about. So anyway, getting back to it, right now we're going from a three-dimensional universe into a fifth-dimensional universe. And so what that means is that some of our systems and ways of life are breaking down. Essentially, that is what is happening, is they're breaking down. We have been used to competition, dog eat dog, I gotta be at the top of the food chain, get out of my way, Nitya Sudevi explains beautifully in one of her videos. It's like a chicken coop that basically the top chicken has to basically he's a or hen or rooster, whatever it is. They have to fight for the best mates. It's a survival of the fittest. It's basically exactly as Charles Darwin said, survival of the fittest. That basically to be on the top of the pyramid, you have to knock everybody else down. You gotta beat them up. You gotta compete with them. You gotta bully them. You gotta push everything that is under you down. And that has been the hierarchical system that we have been living here on planet Earth. We have, if you're doing better than me, I'm supposed to put your work down and say, well, that's not that great. I'm much better at doing, at my own work. And, my salary is better than yours, whatever. And that's been, unfortunately, the way that we've been thinking for some time. Now, this third dimensional way of thinking, now we're going into a fifth dimensional way of thinking. And this isn't so much of a physical plane, that it's not like, oh my God, like why isn't it that we're not leading, a cartoon like the Jetsons? Why is it that it's not necessarily that things are changing on the physical plane? It's not so much the physical plane as it is on a spiritual plane, on an intellectual plane, on more of an internal thing. What I mean to say is that the way of thinking is going to change. Like your thinking creates reality is basically from this 3D hierarchical way of thinking. It's going to be more collaborative. It's going to be more about love. It's going to be more about, sharing and that type of thing rather than dog eat dog competition, survival of the fittest. I'm better than you. I've got a better position than you, oh, I'm going to, I'm just like all full of myself. It's going to be about embracing people. It's going to be about love. It's going to be a whole nother just scheme altogether. And so this fifth dimension way of thinking is going to be more spiritual, where, as Nitya Sudevi again says in that video, that there is a spiritual hierarchy where the people on the top of them, that hierarchy, give the bottom people the most amount of help. So they are givers. The people at the top of this hierarchy are giving the most amount of help to people, and the people at the bottom are receiving the most amount of help. And so it's a more of an upward kind of hierarchy where everybody gets pushed up rather than everybody getting pushed down, and that to assert that I'm the big top guy. So that's essentially what is going on right now on our planet. And I've been talking to some of my friends that one of them is suddenly found herself getting into meditation, getting more spiritual. Some people are finding themselves getting more tired, more lethargic, and these look up ascension symptoms, Google it, and you can find out a little bit about that. Some people are looking up things like star seeds, things, of this nature where they feel like they're from a different planetary system, and basically, like, where the galactic center is, Earth has been like way out here. Like, we are, in the relative scheme of the universe, kind of vibrating at some of the lowest frequencies. We are getting help from outside sources and things of that nature. And so anyway, Manutya Sudevi, she also has a wonderful video called Conspiracy Against Enlightenment. She talks about how, especially in the West, I currently live in India, so our government, we have not said that this is a safe practice to do. We've banned it or outlawed it in this country. But in a lot of Western nations, say that you live in Canada, US, UK, or whatever, you're going to have fluoride in your drinking water. And fluoride in your drinking water attacks the pineal gland that is like right, basically between your eyebrows, just a little bit into your head, in a little bit. And that's responsible for intuitive thought. It's responsible for kind of receiving angelic messages and things of that nature. You can learn a little bit more about that for yourself. But essentially, it calcifies the pineal gland. And you can also research on Google what exactly health effects fluoride has on the body. They sell it to us saying that it's good for your teeth. And that's a lie. I've also looked through a book that happened to be banned by one of these news organizations in the U.S. called ABC. They came to the person's house at something like 4 a.m., banged at him, and within 5 minutes, not giving him much of a chance to talk, they said that he refused to give an interview. And basically they didn't like the information that was in his book that was basically talking about the Food and Drug Administration in the United States, how it works, how there are certain monopolies that are interested, that basically regulate the field, and they make it so that it's very tough for you to do things like they basically kind of they just want to make money off of you. So it's not in their interest to really keep you healthy. It's in their interest to keep you sick. That's the revelation that he came up with. And he comes up with quite a few cases of people making natural things that the FDA has just smashed, and whatnot. So, and there have been also, I think, a Swiss officials that have come into India and saying that, you guys are not pricing your pharmaceutical medicines very good, because in India they were cheap. They wanted to make them more expensive, and India was giving it to other third world countries, a term that I actually don't like, because when you get more into history, you realize that whoever is a third world country now has actually been exploited historically in the past, and we are taught history through a very colonialist perspective. So anyhow, so going back to it, I come from a very spiritual family, and I had for 10 years suffered with something called celiac disease, which, if you don't know about it, I'm not surprised at all, because it's very rare. I know in the US, only 3% of people have it. I don't even know what the statistics in India are, or Canada. So other countries I've lived in, I don't know what they are, but I know that it's rare. And actually, I was bullied a lot at the time of 9/11. And then I just started having diarrhea every day since then. And I used to do bicycling. I used to play soccer. I used to do swimming. I used to do all sorts of athletics. It used to keep me well. I used to love that. I was a Scorpio ascendant. I was all about just playing this or that, soccer or whatever. It keep me really fit and happy. And all of a sudden now, I feel anemic. I basically I can't breathe well. After 5 minutes of playing any sport, I just kind of pass out, and that would happen often. And then we moved. We were living in Florida at the time. My dad's job has kept us moving around a lot. If you know about me, I've moved 12 times in my life between 3 countries. But anyhow, so we moved to Canada, and I went to a doctor who's I took a blood test from, and he said, you know, you're you're just your hemoglobin level is pathetic. Like, I've never in my entire profession seen somebody with as low of a hemoglobin as you. Most people have a 12, you have a 4. And after he said that, I felt like I was going to faint just from a blood test. Um, blood test, that one was just 4 test tubes of blood. Your body makes a few liters of blood, pumps it out every day. It's not a big deal, to get a blood test for a normal person. And I remember that, people would eat cookies and orange juice that have just donated blood. So I was like, okay, orange juice, gotta get it right now, right now. System is going bad, oh my God, I don't want to faint, don't want to faint, don't want to faint. So then I rushed over to this convenience store that was right next to this doctor, and I bought an orange juice, and I just chugged that thing. I had more than half of the bottle, which was about a quart. So I prevented myself from fainting. Later on, my dad had retired, and they decided that they wanted to go to India. And at this point in time, my health was pretty bad. I had hair that stuck on end. I had very, very dark skin. Now, this is a country which values fair skin and people. And then I was very skinny. And again, this is a country that likes healthy people that look bigger, So the skinny thing worked for me in the West. And I guess if you're just somewhat tan skinned, it's exotic. But um, but anyway, by Indian standards, I was pretty ugly looking, I think. Now, sometimes I'd have these bursts of temper. I'd get very irritable, sometimes with my professors and things like this, um, or with students, and I just get very irritated. And sometimes my dad, as he kind of likes to show his love in a cutesy way, and he'd kind of poke you sometimes, and I'd be, ow, that hurts. My bones were hurting. If I try to knock on a door, I literally felt like I had arthritis. And I didn't know at that time what was wrong with me. It was like 9 doctors we went to. And my parents have been involved in meditation for about over 30 years. Um, there are things in our family that, are kind of unusual. And, when I was talking about star seeds before, I read that out of 7 billion people on this planet, there are about 18 million people that are star seeds, that come from like Pleiades or Andromeda or wherever, um, Arcturians, things like that, or maybe indigos, children, rainbow crystal children, those type of basically people that, are very highly spiritual. They may have greater access to truth, or they may have certain abilities. And I know that as a child that I had healing abilities. My grandmother told me, and certain conversations I'd had with her that kind of baffled her, like when she asked me who is God. But anyway, that's for a different discussion. Um, So anyway, going back to this problem that I had, I asked one of my friends to take me to the hospital practically every day, for quite some time, and I was freaking out. I just didn't know what it was, and I think around 2008, I was internally saying, like, if this keeps going on the way that my health is, I am pretty damn sure that I'm going to die. And my breathing wasn't good. My heart was beating very slowly at one point, and just to get to one day of school was torture. I could feel my bones just getting weaker all the time. I I was in terrible shape. And my mom actually prayed to God. 2009, I was supposed to transfer back to the US. So this was an international school in India. After 2 years, and they transferred to the US. So um, she was praying to God. She's like, God, I can't see my daughter suffer like this. She's been for a long time doing this, and I gotta get an answer. And she mysteriously walks to the morning paper at 5 o'clock in the morning, something she normally doesn't do. She normally does other things, attends to other business. And she just came to the morning paper, and there was an article about celiac disease. And it listed about 13 to 15 symptoms I had. And so, anyway, I looked at this, and I was like, oh my God, I have like everything here. Like it's saying depression, ADD, your hands are brittle, or, arthritic, and, like diarrhea, bad stomach, indigestion, whatever, malnutrition, all of this. Um, and one of my teachers had remarked that I had yellow in my eyes, which means liver failure. And I'd then looked up later about celiac after knowing about this, and that if it progresses for more than 10 years, um, you could have organ shutdown. Okay, so I'm talking all about these symptoms, and without really having told you guys what celiac disease is. So celiac disease, what we found out was that it's hereditary. It's something that um, is pretty rare. Uh, it acts dormant in the person's body until and unless severe stress or surgery happens. And I was bullied and I went through crap when I was in Florida after 9/11. I was, a brown kid in a white school, or, some Chinese students or whatever. But basically, you know, my skin color got to the best of one. But anyway, so at that point in time, I the celiac disease, it lies dormant until that happens. Then what happens is your small intestine, you've got your large intestine and your small intestine. It's amazing how the human body works, because when you unravel it, it can actually go for miles. But anyway, so the small intestine, it has inside of it something, tiny hair-like substances called villi. And villi are what absorb the nutrients in your food. So when you have celiac disease, when you eat either wheat, rye, or barley, which contains kind of a cement structure called gluten, and actually our modern day agricultural farming, this has given rise to this disorder as time has gone on, this gluten, because originally speaking, we didn't have this quite some time ago. This gluten, um, we didn't necessarily contain it, so it might be a way that it's farmed that is a bad thing or problematic. And in this day and age with the GMOs, for those of you that are aware of genetically modified foods or Monsanto, or DuPont, it's not a good thing. So anyway, so these people that ingest this, the villi in their stomach, they basically kind of it shaves it off. So what in your body is absorbing your food particles. Now it basically you're suffering from malabsorption. So then you become stupid, you might not get enough oxygen to your brain. Hemoglobin, levels will be depleted. Hemoglobin, oxygen carriers, calcium, vitamin D, iron, all sorts of things can be like that. So I think one time one of my aunts was saying, you look like you have cancer or something. Oh my God. So it's been a rough road. And I went to the US. I understood what I had, so I avoided that food. But uh, not only did I understand that I was a terrible cook and I did not have enough time to really cook anything, but I didn't. The diet seemed very Spartan. Like, I'd have to rice is okay and potatoes are okay, and I have to buy these overly priced cookies that taste like cardboard. Who wants to eat cardboard? I mean, yeah. And they're overly priced. You're a student. You can't afford that kind of stuff. So anyway, I got sick of the diet, to be honest. I came back after 2 years, and I came back to India, and I'm like, I'm fed up with this. And, there were some other things, some other issues I had in my life. I'm like, okay, my life is kind of hard right now. Celiac being one of the biggest things. And there were other issues as well. Some of us all have issues in our lives. I'm like, I'm sick of this. I want things in my life to go straight again. I've had enough. I've really had enough. I want to be okay. And sometimes I'm sure some of you guys understand these extreme prayers to God are answered, are definitely answered. Maybe not otherwise, it's like a silent witness, but when you really need help, definitely answers your prayer. And that's when I came across Ma Nitya Devi on my Facebook. I was looking up similar ideologies, about ascension, about conspiracies, about, spiritual things as well. And was very interested in what she had to say. She presented herself very intelligent in a very calm manner. And I noticed that if any time somebody would attack her or be against something, she would always respond in a very non-emotional, very factual way. And I really like that about her because as Punjabis, where we're from, we tend to be a little more emotional about things. But nonetheless, I had a lot of respect for her. I started watching her videos and I came in contact with her. And she told me to go to see this saint in India called Paramhamsa Nithyananda. She told me a bit about him. She told me about how other people have been cured of various diseases, and that you'll just be another statistic, another person that'll be, cured. At that point in time, my mom put a lot of resistance and said, one's back to the family, whatever, as if I would know. And that's okay. She's, from her point of view, was being over, protective parent, doesn't want to see their kid getting messed up or whatever. Because at the time, there was all these rape stories going on. What I find interesting is my own grandmother, she followed a saint that he had rape allegations as well. But in my mom's mind, that was after he died, so we knew that wasn't true. But in my mind, you never know till you try, right? And me already understanding a lot about the media, understanding many things about the media that, you just, anyway, it doesn't necessarily tell you the truth. I understood that. I was dying to go. I trusted what this lady had to say, and just something in me, I pushed myself to go. And I went in November 2012 to what's called an NSP program. And we did some interesting things. We've done a death meditation. We've done lots of kriyas and yoga in the morning, and lots of discourses. But as soon as I laid my eyes on him, I was like, I've known you from somewhere before, and I've never felt like that before. Manitya Devi used to talk about things called synchronicities, divine synchronicities. And it was funny because I might have to talk about this in another video because this is getting a little long. I went to Arunachal. He said that he'd never shown that to other devotees before. And he was giving everything he got because this was to his own Tamilian people. And some of them could not afford an inner awakening. So this was about, something like 5,000 rupees, $100. One of his programs is quite expensive. It's about 6,000 bucks, and I'm sure that would throw a lot of people off. That, oh, why is it so expensive? But anyway, so we went for this 4-day program, and I did darshan. And now darshan, they touch your third eye. That's kind of your intuitive center. And why they touch your third eye, if they are an enlightened master, they're supposed to vibrate at a very, 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 very high energy, and they are giving that kind of energy to you. It's not just like he's touching you and, oh, what's that about? No, he's actually giving you some of his energy. And it elevates your consciousness, and there are things called siddhis, powers that you can acquire through these gurus. In India, the media has is, I think, foreign owned or something like this, because whenever they talk about Hindu saints or whatever, they're self-styled godmen, and they try as best as they can to get the Indian population against the gurus. Which is unfortunate. But anyway, this is called Diksha, from what I understand. And so I did this for 4 days, and I put prayer requests, so you write down something. So I wanted to go to Toronto. Funny thing is, a few days later, my dad starts to see Swamiji in a vision, and kind of smiling, putting his palm out. And my uncle says, "Congratulations, some of your land is sold." And my uncle is not somebody that would congratulate my father. They've had a lot of family tensions. And so my dad was like, okay, this sounds weird. Why is he Why is he being nice to me, And he said, no, congratulations to you. You helped it or whatever. So that was interesting, because Swamiji just did this 5 minutes before that phone conversation. So off I went to Toronto, and I'd asked him in that 4 days for me to get a job at BPM TV, which is Canada's only dance channel. And interestingly enough, within 1 week of me going to this program, an opening just popped up, and I was like, oh my god, this is amazing, this is awesome, I have to apply for it. So they asked for a 90-second demo reel, and I did that 90-second demo reel. But I was able to look at the competition, and unfortunately, I thought to myself, I'm not getting it. Oh no, they're better than I am. And so this word that Swamiji uses, tathastu, he put out both of his hands and say tathastu, which means so be it. So you have to be very aware of what your own thinking is, and I learned this later on in taking one of his programs, because you are able to basically manifest your own reality. And I don't know, we have a lot more power as human beings than we realize, and I think it's time that we reclaim some of that back. Anyhow, so needless to say, I did not get this job, but I went to the center there that was Swamiji related. They had a center in Toronto, and met a lot of amazing people, and just I randomly bumped into very spiritual people, which didn't happen before. So it could be that energy that he's put into you. Um, and then later on, um, in December, yeah, I went in October. And December, I found I was in the center, and there was samosas, which are very tasty Indian snacks. Just very tasty Indian snacks that I just can't resist. Now, the last time I'd eaten something like a gulab jamun on accident on an airplane that did not give me a gluten-free meal, American Airlines, and I did not sue you guys, by the way. I should have. But they served me, for getting gluten-free stuff, and I ate the gulab jamun, and I was like shaking, and I needed to go to the bathroom, but you have to fill out this paperwork, your luggage, you know the deal if you travel a lot, on the flights, what do you have to do, especially internationally. So anyway, um, so I I saw that all of these samosas very nicely baked in front of me, no oil or whatever. It just looked baked. It looked really yummy. Like I gotta have some of that. God, and then I was thinking to myself, I'm like, I know how sick I get. I know I'm gonna, like, my nerves are gonna go bad. I know how I feel when my nerves go bad. I know how my stomach feels when I go, oh my God, it's such a nightmare. And I just kept staring and staring and staring, and I'm like, but it's worth it. It's worth it. It's worth it. So I ate one. It was okay. I ate two. I was okay. I ate three. I was okay. I ate four. I was okay. And I saw saltine, and then just screamed at everybody in this Toronto center. I'm like, I'm healed. I'm healed. Oh my God, I'm cured. I'm cured. So they have a two-way video conference because Swamiji was based in Birdi. He was supposed to come to Toronto around that time, I think around October, September, somewhere around there of 2012 to Toronto. But because of all of the scandals and all the battles he's had to fight in India, they did not let him leave the country. So that was unfortunate because I was looking forward to see him. But nonetheless, they asked me on a two-way video conference, kind of like Skyping, like, tell us about your experience. And I told them. And so they explained a little bit about how the healing works, how this universal energy kind of works on the body and the system. So I think it seemed like a form of Reiki, but I was told later that his energy is much higher than Reiki is not at all that strong in comparison. And I've tried Reiki before, and I definitely could tell, yeah, she's right, that that energy that you feel is much stronger. So anyway, needless to say, I was basically cured of celiac, that I did not, when I ate anything, that was wheat, wire, barley, I was able to at this point. And, come back to India, my bones are still kind of feeling bad. And, I found out that I had like a severe vitamin D deficiency because I stayed at home too often. And it was like, I think, warm. I'm not really sure why I stayed home a lot, but anyway, so, oh yeah, the safety issues. I didn't feel comfortable kind of going around as a girl, and where we live in India, which is not too safe for girls unless if you drive or if you have family that takes you somewhere, or I don't know, you have to figure out all that stuff. You can't really be an independent person, like you're used to. So anyway, cultural differences. So um, now I decided to go for that program, Inner Awakening, and I it it's so weird because they said you just put an intention form on the internet and um, he blesses it and he takes care of it. You know, if your intention is strong enough and if he decides that you're supposed to go, on how he decides that, I'm not really sure. If the person need is so great or whatever. So still had some lingering like sinusitis problems due to the vitamin D deficiency. I still like, my bones were a little bit brittle and everything. So again, looked up that about vitamin D deficiency, and I came to this expensive program, but within like 2 or 3 days of me putting the intention form, I just got a scholarship from a very, very amazing man. His name is Amritananda. Thank you very much for this. He donated $3,000. Another one, Manitya Pragna, sorry, she gave 500. And then my dad was like, "Oh my God, wow, so amazing! I'll donate you 2,000." On the Inner Awakening form, you say, what is your obstacle, family, relationship, or money, or job, or whatever. So he's cleared the obstacle for many people, and in these 21 days, wow, it's like life finally made sense. He showed us miracles. He showed us, kind of that he had the ability to control weather. He was very enthusiastic and gung-ho about whatever he was doing. And he knew a lot of sciences. Like, he practiced how to live without eating, which he calls nirahara, samyama, or nirahara, sorry. And he's initiated other people into this practice where they go into first from solid food, they go to liquid food, and then they eventually are supposed to just get energy from the sun. And now he's kind of come at a crucial time on our planet where, as I'm saying, we're going from third dimension to fifth dimension. There are things that my father's looked at that we are basically carbon-based bodies right now, and that we're supposed to kind of go into a crystalline type of body structure. So our bodies are supposed to kind of go into a little bit of a change, and that he's kind of preparing us for this change that's coming up. And anyway, so the people that I met at Inner Awakening were really incredible. And like one person on Facebook said that I think I've learned more in those 21 days than I have sitting 4 years at university, and I can definitely say that too. It's a humbling experience in the sense that you really feel like you're a little ant in this world that doesn't know anything, and here is this man, huge blessing to mankind. He's able to heal people of cancer, heal the sick, the blind. His love for everybody is amazing, and he's touched so many lives, and all the people, all the media that has said crap about him, they're gonna have to karmatically pay for it, and they will. But he's empowered us. He's given us certain abilities, and he wants us to realize our highest potential, which is basically to be enlightened. So we don't look at ourselves as sinners here in the East. We look at ourselves more as droplets of divinity, of divine, of God, and we're all God's creations. And I feel very blessed to have met Swamiji, and I hope this can inspire other people to meet him as well. I will also make a compilation of other people's sharings so that they can get a better idea of him. And as for the rape allegations, I'm a woman myself. I have been through actually a rape incident before, and this, if I had that type of trauma and memory within my being, I would be the last person to go to somebody that I think is a rapist. So I can say that I definitely did not feel unsafe around him, and I'm very intuitive. People that know me know that very well about me, that I can kind of pick up on people quite well, like, like very quickly too. So this spirituality, intuition, meditation, yoga, Hinduism should not be regarded as superstition, and gurus should not be looked at as self-styled godmen. They should be looked at as the incarnations of divinity that they are, because they are here to help mankind. They are not here for money as other people think. Their way of thinking is completely different from our 3D worldly perspective. They don't care about status, they don't care about money, they don't care about those things. They're in the spiritual hierarchy where they want to help lift up everybody, help lift up your health, help lift up your wealth, help lift you up as a person, and then for you to consciously go higher. That's where they're at, So we have to look at ourselves as people, really look at ourselves in the mirror, and see whether we're putting our own projections onto somebody else. Projection is a psychological term where, what I am is what I call you. So say if I am a robber or something, and I will always say that I'm good. I will always say that I never do anything like that. And I'll always call somebody else a robber. You did this, you did that. And I'm sure we know people like that in our lives, in our family or in our friend circle or whatever that do that. And for that, Swamiji teaches us a very good technique called completion. Completion, where you look at yourself in the mirror and you relive traumatic experiences of your life, and that basically in doing so, you basically release all the pain and suffering of your own life, or at least from that specific incident. Anyway, I hope this has been helpful and informative to some of you out there, and I hope to make more YouTube videos as time progresses. So I hope to receive some positive comments. So anyway, we'll be making some more videos soon. Thanks for listening. Nithyananda.